Today we're on DAF. Mem Beis Amid Aleph is our DAF, and we're starting at the bottom of Mem Aleph Amid Beis. The issue that Rav Chisda is going to be dealing with, we start with Amar Rav Chisda Hamani, is the issue as follows. The Gemara had brought a statement from a Brisa that says that if you eat the Korban Pesach raw, then you're over in a lav. Furthermore, if you eat the Korban Pesach before nightfall, you also are over on a lav. So the Gemara had said, I understand the first statement, which is eating it raw. The Torah says, Lo sochlu mimenu na, do not eat it raw. So therefore there's clearly a mitzvah lo saseh in the Torah, negative commandment. But where's the negative commandment that you have to eat it only at nighttime, and if you don't, you're in violation of a lav, of a mitzvah lo saseh?
I think it says.
The Torah says, "V'achaluo so balayla hazeh," they shall eat it at that night. But that's a positive statement. Where's the mitzvah lo saseh? Normally we say that lav haba michlal aseh aseh. That if you infer the negative from a positive statement, that's only a violation of the mitzvah aseh, not a violation of the mitzvah lo saseh. And there are ramifications. There's malchus if it's a mitzvah lo saseh. There's no malchus if it's a mitzvah aseh. And there are other ramifications as well. So how can you tell me that this is a mitzvah lo saseh when the Torah phrases it in the form of an aseh? Amar Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda answers this and he says, Hamani Rebbe Yehuda. It goes according to Rebbe Yehuda. The Tanya, Shor vaseh sarua v'kalut nedavat ha'aseh oso. The Torah is talking about a blemished animal. And it says that when you have a blemished animal, even though you can't bring it as a korban, but you can bring it for the bedek habayis. You bring it to the temple treasury, and you offer it as a gift to the temple as a financial gift. Also atamatvis lebedek habayis via atamatvis tamimim lebedek habayis. Only an animal that is blemished may be brought to the treasury, but if an animal is unblemished and it is usable as a korban, then you're not permitted to bring it to the bedek habayis as a financial gift. Mikan amru kol hamatfis tamimim lebedek habayis over ba'aseh. So from here we learn that if a person does make a declaration of hektish and says this unblemished animal will be for the treasury, for the bedek habayis, he's in violation of a positive commandment. And then the Brisa continues and it says, Ein li ela ba'aseh below sa'aseh minayin. Now, how do you know that even there's a mitzvah lo saseh that you violate? Tamalomar vayidaber Hashem al Moshe leimor. As it says, Hashem said leimor. Now, this is a ubiquitous pasuk. It's the most common pasuk in Kol HaTorah Kula. So you mean to tell me that any time the pasuk says vayidaber Hashem al Moshe leimor, there's an automatic conveyance of a mitzvah lo saseh? That's a pretty surprising statement. So Tosfos just clarifies, is that any time, according to this Brisa, which is Rebbe Yehuda, anytime the Torah gives me a positive commandment which has an inference of a negative that is prefaced by Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe leimor, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that conveys a mitzvah lo saseh as well. So limit al kol parsha kula shi'eh below saseh divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So that's what Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Now, so Amar lo Rebbe lebar kapara, my mashma. So Rebbe asked bar kapara, what is the conveyance? Where do you see in the words Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe leimor that there's a mitzvah lo saseh? Where in the world does that come from? So Amar lo dichsiv leimor lo ne'emar bidvarim, because the word leimor is a contraction of two words, lo ne'emar, that a no is being said. No is being said in these words, or thou shalt not is being said. And Beirav Omri, and in the Beis Medrash of Rav, they teach leimor lav emor, that leimor is a contraction of similar two words, thou shalt not, you shall say. In other words, Hashem is telling Moshe that in addition to the positive, there's also a negative commandment being conveyed as well. Okay, fine.
So in Yiddish, it's a nice one. We learn our voice from them.
We're learning our voice.
Of this.
Out, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go weiter. One of the things that the Mishnah had previously said that you have to dispose of before Pesach is water that is used by a baker. Bakers use water all the time in the process of baking. They use either a brush or their free hand, and they put water on the surface of the loaf that they're baking, And use water for a number of different things. Invariably, there's going to be flour or dough that gets mixed in with the water, and therefore there's a problem of chametz. You have to dispose of it before Pesach. So tani chada shoyfchin b'makom madron ve'in shofchin b'makom ha'ishboren. The tanya idach shofchin b'makom ha'ishboren. We have two brises that contradict each other. One brisa says that you're only, when you dispose of this water, you have to pour it down a slope so that the water will completely disappear because it's no longer in front of you, because it's flowing down a slope. There's another brisa that says that no, it can be poured into a flat place as long as there's a crevice or crevices in the ground to collect the water. So how do you reconcile this contradiction? Lo kasha, hada nefishi de kavu, hada lo nefishi de lo kavu. The answer is that when you have a lot of water, such that if you were to pour it in a crevice, it would remain a puddle for an extended period of time. So then we don't trust you. You have to get rid of it by pouring it down a slope so that it'll completely disappear. When there's a smaller amount, by pouring it in the crevice, it'll just very quickly seep into the soil. So then you can dispose of it even if it's not on a sloped area. But the point is, the brises are both conveying to us, you got to get rid of it and not allow it to stick around. Amar Rav Yehuda, Ishalo Salush Ela B'mayim Shalanu. So now we have a totally different halacha, which is related to water that's used in baking. But here we're talking about the water that's used for baking matzahs. And there's a principle, anyone who's ever gone to bake matzahs or a matzah factory knows that the water that they use has been lying out overnight. That's called mayim shalanu, water that has rested or slept overnight outside of the well. Now what's the reason that you have to use mayim shalanu, water that rested overnight, that was out of the well? The answer, explains Rashi, is because in Nisan, right before Pesach, when we bake the matzahs, it's still the winter time, or it's still cold outside, and therefore well water is warmer than the outer temperature outside. And because of that, we have this issue that we should not use warm water in the baking of matzah, because warm water leavens faster the dough than cold water. And so therefore you have to leave the water out so that it can assume room temperature by the time you're ready to bake the matzahs, and is not warmer than room temperature. That's the whole reason for mayim shalanu, according to Rashi.
I could be a witness, because in my book I'm writing this.
Yeah, that's right. Your parents had
matzahs in our house.
They baked in your house. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda, Isha lo salush. So Darsha Rav Masna bePapunya. So Rav Masna taught this halacha in the city of Papunya. There's a lot that goes on in the city of Papunya. We see this a few places in Shas, that this was a place of public drushes, and even the Satan used to come around to Papunya. Anyway, L'macher aisu kuli alma chatzavayu va'asu lagabe va'amrulei havlan maya. So people misunderstood the statement of mayim shalanu, because what does shalanu mean? Ours. Our water. So when he gave the drasha that you should use our water, mayim shalanu, people thought that he was saying you can only use the water of the rabbis. So everyone came the next day and they brought their buckets and they said, okay, we're here for some water, give us water. So Amar Lahu, Ana B'maya Debisu, Amri. No, I was talking about water that rested overnight. So he just had to clarify his words. Darash Rava, Isha lo salush b'chama, v'lo b'chame chama, v'lo b'mayim hagrufin min hamoliyar. That in continuing this theme that you're not supposed to use warm water, a woman should not knead the matzah dough in the sun, because that's going to increase the leavening, or hasten the leavening. She should not use water that was heated in the sun, nor should she use water that was scooped out from the bottom of a kettle. Now that's even after the kettle is no longer on the fire, or let's say there's no fire in the stove. Since the bottom of the kettle usually retains a little bit of heat even after the fire has died down, the water is going to be somewhat warm, and therefore you shouldn't use that water either. Velo takbiya yada min hatanur at shetigmor is kol hapas. Furthermore, once she starts baking, she should not take any breaks. Don't let her remove her hand from the oven until she's finished all of the baking, because any pauses, any breaks in the baking could cause leavening of the dough. And furthermore, she needs 2 containers of water during the baking process. One that she uses to dip her hand to place water on the surface before the baking. but another one that she uses to cool off her hand before she's ready to work with the next matzah. Because in the process of slapping water on the dough that's just been slapped on the side of the oven, her hand is going to get warmed up. And we don't want her warmed hand to handle the next piece of raw dough. So therefore we tell her, cool off your hand in the cool water before you start working with the next matzah. Iboilahu avra v'la shamahu. So now the question is raised, what if a woman disregards this halacha and uses warm water instead of all of these mayim shalanu issues and cooled off water and so forth? What if, is there a penalty that we penalize her and say that even b'di'evid your matzah is not kosher? So Mar Zutra Amar Mutter, Rav Ashi Amar, so we have a machlokes. Mar Zutra says that it's mutter b'di'evid, and Rav Ashi says no b'di'evid, it's aser. Amar Mar Zutra mino aminala. So Mar Zutra says, let me prove it to you. The Tanya ein losasin hasaorin bepesach ve'im losas nisbaku u asurin lo nisbaku u mutarin. There's a brisa that says the word to be loses means to malt grain. When you malt barley, basically it's a soaking process which causes it to sort of burst the barley, and that's a process that's used, I don't know, we use malted barley for different things, right? So you're not supposed to malt barley on Pesach, and if you do, then b'di'evid, the question is the barley mutter or not? So it depends. If the grain has burst open, has cracked open, so then that's a sign that the leavening process has begun, and therefore it's aser. But if it has not yet opened up the grain, it has cracked open from the water, so then that's a sign that the leavening has not yet begun, and b'di'evid it's mutter. So Mar Zutra wants to argue, so you see the Chazal don't penalize a person for disregarding their edicts when it comes to chametz. If b'di'evid she didn't listen and she didn't use mayim shalanu, b'di'evid the matzah is still mutter. The Rav Ashi Omar atu kulhu chada machisam machitinu. So Rav Ashi says, you think that they were all stitched together? Meaning, so what, just because you found one precedent where Chazal don't penalize you, you can extrapolate from there in all cases? Heicha de itmar itmar, v'heicha de lo itmar. Wherever Chazal did not penalize, fine. But wherever they didn't qualify and said, we're not penalizing you, we have to be machmir and say that no, maybe Chazal did penalize the person for not listening to their edict. Hadran alach kol shah. We now begin the third parak of Psachim ve'ilu ovrin. The following things, says the Mishnah, you are in violation of the mitzvah of bal yira'eh bal yimatzeh, which is a mitzvah lo saseh, by having these things in your possession on Pesach. However, bear in mind that if you consume these things over Pesach, you will not get kares for them because they're not what we would call a chametz be'en. They're not raw or actual isolated chametz. They're either a mixture of chametz or something that we would call chametz nuksha, chametz in a transformed form, in such a way that even though it's a chametz type of object, but you don't get kares for its consumption, but you're still in violation of bal yirah, bal yimatzeh.
It's got to be like be'en, like very clearly chametz.
Right. So you'll see some examples, and the Gemara will speak this out. So the following things you're in violation of owning over Pesach: kusach habavli, our old friend the kutach, the Babylonian kutach, which we'll describe momentarily. V'shecher hamadi, median mead or median beer. The chometz ha'edomi, Edomite vinegar. Zisom hamitzri, a certain kind of elixir that is made from Egypt. V'zoman shel tzvoim, a certain savoim, a certain kind of item that is used by dyers. V'amilan shel tabachim, a certain kind of starchy material. The word amilan in modern Hebrew, you see it on ingredients a lot. It means starch, right? So it's a butcher's starch. We'll see what that is. V'kolan shel sofrim, and a type of glue that is used by scribes. Rabbi Eliezer Omer aftach shitei nashim. He says even women's adornments, which is a little bit weird. What kind of chametz are in women's adornments? Next time you buy your wife a necklace, you can make it out of a pretzel and tell her what the Mishnah says. That's a good piece of jewelry. Za klal kol shu mimin dag an hareza over bepesach. The general rule is anything that's made out of the 5 grains, you violate ownership on Pesach. Aryai elu ba'azhara ve'en b'mishum kares. These things you get a mitzvah lo saseh for if you own them, but there's no kares involved for their consumption. Well, the Gemara will explain that. Okay, Tanu Rabbana. So the Brisa elaborates. Shlosha dvarim ne'marim b'kutach habavli. There are 3 things that are stated about this Babylonian kutach drink or dip. It closes up the heart, it blinds the eyes, and it weakens the body. So what does this mean? It closes up the heart because it has whey in it. And I don't really understand how this dairy product, whey, which is a byproduct of curdling cheese, why it closes up the heart. But apparently Chazal felt maybe it's the hardening of the arteries because of the dairy. I don't know. I really don't know what it means. Usually the term metamtem es halev is used when we talk about non-kosher food, that it has a supernatural or metaphysical effect of being metamtem es, like closing up the heart in a spiritual sense. But here I don't know why whey would be considered to be that way, unless there's a metaphysical aspect. The Chazal do suggest, there's a suggestion that whey may be a problem of Aver min Achai. Yes?
It's mostly protein, I believe.
Whey is mostly protein. Yeah, correct. So that theory, too much protein may be unhealthy, you're saying?
At one shot, yeah.
I see. Okay, interesting.
I've heard of cases of people who are on high protein diets actually even dying.
Wow. Okay.
Stress the kidneys.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So anyway,
Raizel says machal tafel v'garua.
Well, that's Kutach Habavli in general. But is he saying that whey in general, whey specifically, you're saying is just a bad food. It's unhealthy. Okay, I would say that it has to do with some kind of supernatural issue. It blinds the eyes, mishum milcha, because of the salt. Rashi says because sometimes there's melech sodomis, sodomite salt, which can blind you. I would also argue that it raises the blood pressure. That could also affect a person's vision. It also weakens the body. Why? Because this thing called kumnisa du'uma, which is moldy bread. If you remember, to make a kutach habavli, you take moldy bread and you mix it with salt and with whey, or with some other sour milk, and that's how you get this delicious dip. So if you eat moldy bread, it's going to make your body weak. There are three things that increase your stool production. They give you a hunched over posture, and they take away 1/500th of your eyesight. These are all considered to be negative things. Remember, to increase stool production is a negative thing because there's no indoor plumbing. So to have to go to the bathroom constantly in the times of Chazal is a bad thing. Today we consider that to be a good thing. We take stool softeners, we have high fiber diets, but in the times of Chazal that was very undesirable. So Eluhein, so they are as follows: Pas kibar v'shecher chadash v'yerek chai. They are black bread, newly manufactured beer or mead, and raw vegetables. But Rashi says sharp vegetables like onions and radishes and so forth. There are three things that decrease stool production, make a person stand with an erect posture, and increase or illuminate his eyesight. What are they? Eluhein pasnikia, white bread, basar shamein, fatty meat, v'yayin yashan, and aged wine. So 2 out of those 3 things modern science says is unhealthy for you, but Chazal say it's a good thing for you. Now, pasnikia, white bread, why? What do we mean? Desamida. We're talking about what's made out of the very fine, high-quality flour. Basar shamein ditzfirta, delo aftach. That when we talk about fatty meat, we're talking about the meat of a goat that has not given birth. So its muscle tissue is very strong and powerful, and therefore it has a lot of kick to it. Yain yashan atik atike, and aged wine, Rashi says atik atike means it's very aged. Rashi says means at least 3 years old. Kol mili demali lahai kosher lahai de kosher lahai malalai. Furthermore, the Brisa says normally foods that are healthy for one part of the body are detrimental to another part of the body, with the exception of the following 5 things: bar mizangvila ritiva, upilpali arichta, upasnikia, ubasar shamein, v'yayin yashan, demali lekule gufe. These 5 things are healthy for the entire body. They are fresh ginger, long peppers, white bread, fatty meat, aged wine. These things are healthy for the entire body. So remember, white bread and fatty meat, healthy for the entire body. Not exactly what we would recommend today, but remember, today we are an obese society that has an overabundance of food, and we have indoor plumbing, so therefore fiber is very healthy for our diet. So because conditions within society have changed, the health regimentation of what Chazal are advocating would probably also change. Sheichar Hamadi deramu be'imei. Why is median beer not permitted on Pesach? Because they ferment it with barley. Rashi says that's the beer that we have today in Europe. Okay, that's what Rashi is referring to. In the medieval times, that's the way they made beer. But in the Middle East, in ancient times, they made beer with dates. And so you could have date beer on Pesach. It's perfectly kosher LePesach. I don't know, is there any? Can you buy beer today that's not made with grain? If you find it, let me know. Be an interesting business to go into for Pesach, is to kosher LePesach beer, right, or mead. Okay, the chometz ha'edomi and Edomite vinegar. So deshadu beisari. Now, why do you say it's Edomite vinegar? Because Edomite vinegar is manufactured, even though vinegar is only manufactured from wine, but the Edomite grapes are of such high quality that they never go sour and turn to vinegar. And the only way that they can sour the wine is by adding barley to it, which causes a fermentation process to cause the wine to turn into vinegar. Because when you're dealing with very high quality wine, it's not going to turn to vinegar on its own. So this is a sign that Edomite wine, Edomite grapes, are of a very high quality. Amar of Nachman, Batchila kishayu mevi'in nesachem miYehuda lo hayayenim shel Yehuda machmitz ad shenos l'sochen sa'orin v'yikarno so chometz stam. He says originally in the good old days, during temple times, when the Jews were ascendant, then when people from Judea would bring their wine for libations, the wine was of such high quality that the only way that you could get it to ferment into vinegar was by adding barley to it. And that's why they called the vinegar that you can't have on Pesach, stam chometz, that was called vinegar. But va'achshav ein yenam shel edomi yemachmitz at shenos l'sochen sarm v'karno so chometz ha'edomi. But nowadays, after the Churban, when the Jewish people have experienced their denumah and the other nations are ascendant, so therefore that is also manifest in their produce. And therefore, Edomite wine is of a much higher quality, and that's why when we talk about this vinegar, we have to call it Edomite vinegar. L'kayim mashenemar imola'ah hachareva. And this fulfills the pasuk in Yecheskel that says that God says, I shall fulfill or fill up that which is destroyed, which means, imaleyazu charevazu, v'imaleyazu charevazu. When one is filled, when one nation, when we talk about Israel and Esav, right, the two brothers, Edom and Yisrael, Yaakov and Esav, when one is filled, the other is empty, the other is destroyed, and when the other one is filled, the other one is destroyed. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says you derive it from a pasuk in Chumash where the Navi tells Rivke that the two children in her womb, one nation will be always overpower the other nation. So when Israel is ascendant, Edom is descendant, and when Edom is ascendant, Israel is descendant. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, by Yehuda, Barishona, Halokea Chometz, Me'am Haaretz, Eno Tzarech La'aser, Mipnei Shechazak Eno Ba Ela Min HaTemed. So Rabbi Yehuda says in the Brisa that in Judea, in the good old days, when the wine was really of a great quality, so then any time you would buy vinegar from an Am Haaretz, you would not have to take Meiser, you would not have to tithe. Why? Because even though normally there's a question of demai on produce that you buy from an Am Haaretz, and there you have to retithe it, nevertheless, because this vinegar is not made from the actual grape, but it was made from temed, which is you add water to sediment or to the grape pulp and to produce the vinegar, therefore it's not actual grape product that you're getting, and therefore there's no need to tithe it again. So v'achshav halokeh chometz me'am haaretz tzarech la'aser shechazkaso eino bo ela min hayayin. But nowadays that you can make vinegar from the actual grapes themselves, from the actual wine, so then when you buy vinegar, you have to assume that it has not been tithed properly when you buy it from an Am Haaretz, and therefore it has a din of demai, and you have to retithe it. Frek the Gemara v'savar Rabbi Yehuda temed lav bar yisurehu. So you mean to tell me from this brisa that according to Rabbi Yehuda, temed, which is this water flavored with grape product is not considered to be a produce product. It's not considered to be a product of the grape. V'ha hametamed v'nos v'hatnan. We have a Mishnah that says hametamed v'nos and mayim b'mido matzah kedei midah so pater. The Tanakama says that when you're making temed and you add water and you extract from the grape pulp the same yield of water that you put in, this is a sign that none of the juice that was in the grape pulp has seeped out into the water, and all that you have is just flavor, and therefore it is not subject to tithing. So, but Rabbi Yehuda Machai, but Rabbi Yehuda says you're chayiv. So it's a steer in Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda clearly states in this Mishnah that even though the temed has only drawn the flavor from the grape pulp, it is still considered to be a grape product and is subject to tithing. So how can Rabbi Yehuda in the previous brisa say that temed is not subject to tithing? So hachi kamar. So the answer is, says the Gemara, lo nechshadu ami haaretz al hatemed. So one answer, says the Gemara, is that all Rabbi Yehuda means to say is no. Really, temed is a grape product, but because it is such an inexpensive grape product, we don't suspect that an Am Haaretz did not tithe it properly. The only time an Am Haaretz doesn't tithe properly is because he wants to cut corners, and therefore maybe he'll skimp on tithing because of the expense that is involved in tithing properly. But here, since it's such a cheap product, he's not going to skimp, and therefore he'll tithe it properly. Another answer, says the Gemara, is that really Amei Haaretz are suspect of not tithing temed properly, even though it is a grape product. But there are two ways of making temed. And Rashi, I don't really clearly, since I've never made temed myself, I can't tell you the exact difference, but Rashi tries to describe it in a way that it clarifies it. There are different ways of extracting flavoring from the grape when you're working with grape sediment or grape pulp. One way, or the dregs, one way is to add water to the grape pulp, and there Rashi says the water is only extracting what he calls kiyuha ba'alma, which is sort of just like a non-juice liquid that comes off of the grape, and therefore it's only flavoring, it's not the fruit itself, and therefore it's not subject, this type of temed is not subject to tithing. But there's another way to make temed where you have water in a utensil and you add the grape sediment and mix it in with the water, and there the actual fruit itself is actually mixed in and it produces vinegar that way. And because the actual fruit is mixed in, so that's why it would be subject to tithing. So basically there are two types of temed. The one type of temed which doesn't have the actual fruit in it is not subject to tithing. The other type of temed which does have the fruit mixed in is subject to tithing. Next, now we're going to define all of these things in the Mishnah. What is v'zisam hamitzri, a certain kind of elixir from Egypt? My zisam hamitzri, what is it? Tana Rav Yosef, tilsa sari, tilsa kurtimi, v'tilsa milcha. It's a certain kind of medicinal elixir. It's 1/3 barley. These are the ingredients: 1/3 barley, 1/3 saffron, and 1/3 salt. Rav Papa mapik sari ma'al chita. Rav Papa says, no, it's not barley, it's wheat. But the bottom line is that it is used as a grain product. The simonech sisni, the way to remember which one says which, is that just remember this utensil called a sisni, which I guess could conceivably hold this elixir, the zisam hamitzri. And the word sisni has two samichs, so you'll remember that Rav Yosef, who has a samich in his name, holds of sa'ari, says that you use barley, which has a sin or a samich in the word instead of chiti. Taru lahu v'kalu lahu v'tachani lahu v'shasi lahu medibcha v'yaratzarta. That the way that you prepare this elixir is that you soak it all together, and then you burn it. I guess you have to, let it dry, and then you burn it all together, and then you grind it up all together, and you put it in some kind of compound, in some kind of base, and you make it into an elixir. And you drink it from Pesach until Shavuos. Why? What is its effect? Dekamit marfile uderafi makmitle. If a person is constipated, it'll loosen the stool. And if you have diarrhea, it'll stop that as well. In other words, it has both effects. Now, why from Pesach until Shavuos? Very simple, because on Pesach, a lot of people get stomach problems from all that matzah. Some people get constipated, and some people get diarrhea. But both of them, you're going to need something afterwards. And so for some people, it lasts all the way from Pesach until Shavuos. Rachmana litzlan. Lechoila uleisha ubra sakanta. But this is such a potent elixir that if you're sick, or if you're a pregnant woman, you should not take it because it could present a danger to the fetus. V'zoman shel tzavoim v'chulei. The next thing that we learned was a certain kind of ingredient that is used by dyers. Sahacha targimu maya dechivri detzavi behuliba. Some say the girsa is lacha. That they explain over here in Bavel that it's a certain kind of white water that has maybe a flour mixed into it, and it's used almost like a bleach. When you have a very dark hide, a tanner will use it to bleach the hide or whiten it a little bit, and that's why it's got a problem of chametz, because it's mixed in with some grain or some flour. Va'amilan shel tabachim. What is this thing that butchers use? Pas tavua shelo hivia shlish sheminicha al pi kedera v'shoeves hazuhama. What it is, explains the Gemara, is that a butcher will use it when he's cooking a beef stew. And it's not a bread, you don't use it to make bread that is edible, but there's another type of use for this. This is when you harvest wheat in its premature stages, you grind it into flour and you make it into bread, not for consumption. It's not a really good edible bread, but it's used to draw out malodorous fragrance that is coming, aromas that are coming off of cooking meat, and in a pot. Now remember, thank God we live in modern times when our food is good. Just remember that poem. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot 9 days old. When you think about that poem, think about food that's been cooking on the stove for 9 days. After a while, you wish you didn't have to smell it. So what they would do is they would take dough, this kind of dough, place it over the pot, and the dough would absorb the aroma that was coming off of the food, and to let people breathe a little bit. Okay, so that's also the kind of thing that you're not allowed to have over Pesach. The kolan shel.
It went in the pot, or was just like
it was over the pot. It was like a pot cover, and it would absorb the aroma. The kolan shel so from the chulei. And the next one is this thing that is used by scribes. We called it a glue. So the Gemara will explain, Hacha targuma parura de ushkapi. It is explained here as being a glue that is used by shoemakers to glue together pieces of leather to make a shoe. Rav Shimi mechozna amar zeti pulan shel benos ashim shemishayras osan oso lebenos aniyim. So Rav Shimi says that no, it's actually a type of dough that is made from grain, but it is used not for baking, but it is used rather as a hair remover that is used by wealthy girls, because it's quite expensive flour that you have to use in order, very fine flour, and you use like a waxing, to pull it off, and then they leave over the leftover dough and they give it to the poor girls because they can't afford it. So frak the Gemara, Eini, is this really so? V'hatana Rabbi Chia arba mine medina shlosha mine umnus. V'yamart tipulin shel benos ashira mai mine umnus ika. But one second, Rabbi Chia, when he taught this Mishnah, had taught that there are four things on this list that are used by regular home bodies, and 3 things on this list that are used by professionals in their profession. And one of the 3 things that is used by professionals is this kolan shel sofrim. And according to what you're saying now, that if it's used by girls to wax their hair, so then that's not a professional use, that's a consumer use. So how do you reconcile it? So ve'elamai pirua de ushkapi. So what's the alternative? So you're going to go back to calling it a glue that's used by shoemakers. So amai korile ahai kolan shel sofrim. So then why call it a scribe's glue? Call it a shoemaker's glue. So the Gemara answers kolan shel ratzonim miboilate. That's what you should have called it, a leather maker's glue. So Amar Rav Oshia la'olam pirura de ushkapi va'amai korele kolan shel svarim desofrim nami medavkin behuni oroseyen. Really, it's a shoemaker's or a leathersmith's glue that he uses to patch together when he wants to make saddles or shoes or whatever else he wants to make. He uses this kind of glue. But scribes also use it when they want to patch together and make paper. Part of the one method of manufacturing paper is to glue very thin pieces together, or to take pulp and to glue it together using this glue base. But in any event, part of one method of manufacturing paper is to use a leavened product, and that too cannot be stored. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Aftach Shitei Nashim. And finally, we get to this adornment, women's adornments. How does that chametz? So the Gemara says, Tachshitei Nashim Slal Gedaitich. Are you really thinking that women's adornments are chametz? Ela Ema Afti Pulei Nashim. So answers the Gemara, women's beauty products. And what do we mean? We're going back to our issue of waxing. Domer of Yehuda Marav, Benos Yisrael, She'igiu L'Pirkan V'lo Higiu L'Shanim, Benos Aniyim Toflos Osen B'Sid, Benos Ashirim Toflos Osen B'Soles, and Benos Malachim B'Shemen Hamor. That when you have young girls who are precocious in their production of body hair, so it's embarrassing for them, and so they want to remove their hair. But I don't think it just means dafka young girls. It could mean any woman who needs to wax and produces excess hair, unwanted hair. So there are different ways of hair removal. If you're a poor girl, so then you use lime. And obviously that's not desirable because it's very caustic. It's got an abrasive quality to it. So therefore it's not good for the skin. So therefore, if you're wealthy, you use this kind of dough, this raw dough that you stick against the body, and it removes the hair that way. And if you're really aristocratic, you're a princess, so then you use shemen hamor, you use myrrh oil in order to remove it. Shenamar, and that's what we have in Esther. It says Shisha Chadoshim b'Shemen Hamor. The Persian girls that were brought before Achashverosh, they used 6 months. They would anoint themselves in this myrrh oil to make themselves beautiful. So my Shemen Hamor. So what is Shemen Hamor? Rav Huna Bar Yirmiyah Omar Sateches. And Rashi said, I don't know what this is, but another place Rashi calls it balsam. It's a certain kind of balsamic oil. Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba Omar Shemen Zayah Shalohevi Shlish. He says that it's an oil that is made from olives that have only grown less than a third of their growth, so they're extremely acidic. And therefore, when you manufacture it into oil, it has this caustic property. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Anpiknin Shemen Zayah Shalohevi Shlish. That's the name of this type of oil called Anpiknin. So why do you use it as a salve? The answer is because it removes hair and it plumps up or makes it makes the skin ruddy, it makes the skin look attractive. Have a wonderful day.